Lenny.
Hi, Nancy.
Welcome to episode 115 of the Front Porch Book Club.
The Front Porch Book Club is the podcast that meets twice a month.
We like to dig deep into the relationship between characters and the worlds they live in.
Grab your book and iced tea and join us on the front porch.
Well, Lenny, it's December when we drop this episode, so we are continuing our tradition of doing a kid's book. But this year, the kids are a little bit older because we're doing a young adult novel instead of we've done a lot of picture books.
Appropriate for Christmas. This one's a little dark, but for the right teen, this might be perfect for that teen.
And Lenny, at the end, there is snow.
Oh, yeah, there is. And sledding and warm fireplaces and all of that. Okay, let's talk about our book. It's called The Giver, and it's written by Lois Lowry. It became an instant classic when it was published in 1993. And that year, our author won the Newbery Award, which is given by the American Library Association, to the author of the most distinguished contribution to American literature for children. She had previously won another Newbery Award in 1990 for her book, Number the Stars.
Right. So The Giver is set in a dystopian future, and it's kind of a speculative work of fiction also. 12-year-old Jonas is selected to become an apprentice to the Giver, and the Giver is the protector of memories that have been suppressed in his tightly controlled community. And so this is a community where everything is controlled so that there are no wrong choices, there's no competition, there's no conflict, there's no war, there are really no bad feelings. Everything is supposed to just be peaceful and calm, which doesn't sound that bad at first, but then the screw starts turning and you start seeing the trade-offs that people have made in order to live in this community. Although by the time we meet Jonas and his family, it's not like they've chosen to live in this community. They've been born into the community.
Right. And that this community has been established for a long time. At least that's what they're told.
Yeah.
There's really no history. There's no music. There's no color.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that they're missing anything. There's the washing of the memory or the suppression of it.
Yeah.
So they don't really realize anything is wrong. And neither does Jonas until the Giver starts giving him experiences, memories. And through those memories, he is able to understand what feelings are, to understand what color is, to understand pain and war and suffering and hunger. But he is also able to experience joy and connectivity and love that he hasn't experienced before. And so he's being exposed to all these things. And he's not allowed to share any of it. He has to keep this to himself. And so there's a burden with that. But with that knowledge, he is also allowed the ability to lie.
Right, because no one in the community is allowed to lie.
Right. So it creates an interesting dilemma of we have somebody with all of this knowledge and information. And through that knowledge, he has gained more knowledge and he is able to see things that he did not see before and experience. And then there comes a time where he has to figure out what is he going to do about this.
Right. Because it's like somehow the Giver has all of the memories of humanity. So the Giver has humanity's memories from historical times. So he goes back, it seems like maybe he has a World War I memory. It's not really clear how this all works, but this community having a Giver keeps everyone else in the community from knowing what life was like before this community was established.
So it's kind of dark.
Well, it started out seeming like a lovely little Mayberry place, didn't it? Or to me, it did.
You know, Nance, I think I read this book at some point.
Well, you might have.
Or saw a movie or something. And I asked my son about it. I said, did we read this book when you were in high school, or did you get this out of the library?
Yeah.
And he said, no, he didn't remember it at all.
It was made into a movie.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed very familiar to me, like I had read it or seen it. It's like, this is really familiar, but I couldn't really remember the story.
It's not until you're a little bit in when Jonah is throwing an apple to a friend and he knows something changes about the apple, but he can't place what it is, but something changes. And it's then a couple chapters later where you realize that this is a world in black and white. And what he sees is color for the first time. And he doesn't understand what color is. And then suddenly you're like, oh, wait, we've been living in a black and white world. I didn't realize that. And then you realize, yeah, a world without music. And then you realize a world without love. It's like the author just keeps saying, oh, really? You want to live in this perfect Mayberry place? Well, what are you giving up? And then you start realizing, and then what are you willing to do to stay in this community? And that's when it starts getting super dark.
Yeah. I think there's a lesson here. Knowledge gives us power and choices. Mm-hmm. And what we do with them can lead to consequences.
Right.
It's very sweet that everybody forgives very easily. I do like that we all forgive very easily. But the things that are being asked to be forgiven are very minor situations. Like, I left my bike outside. I'm so sorry. Oh, we forgive you. Mm-hmm. Because that's what keeps a peaceful community. It's not so much memories. It's knowledge and awareness, I think, is the real takeaway. And that knowledge is power. And if you take knowledge or information or books or history or whatever it is away from society, you are not creating a good place.
Mm-hmm. Right. There are no books. That's another thing. Then you realize, oh, no one has any books.
And there's no history. The giver has the books.
Right.
So our little boy here has all of that information as well, but no one else does. And I think that this is good for all people at all times to be aware of the fact that books are a good thing, even if you're a non-reader. Like, have some books.
It's good to have books.
Good to have books. Book banning generally is not a great thing for society.
Right.
You're the parent. You get to decide maybe what books your 5-year-old should be reading.
Yeah.
But in general, books and information are critical to cognitive functioning and a good life.
And what's ironic is this book has actually been a book that has been banned in libraries across the United States.
I did not realize that, Nancy. Is that why you picked it?
No, that's not why I picked it. I picked it because it is now a classic children's / young adult book that I had never read. And there is a lot of buzz around it. Like, I would read things that would refer to the giver and I'd think, okay, this is a book I need to read.
I had no idea. Now, why would this book be banned?
Well, why is any book banned?
I don't see this book as controversial.
A young person who realizes the flaws in his community and decides to rebel against his parents and his community to make a better life for himself. I guess that's frightening for some people.
He does rebel by leaving home.
Right.
But every kid has to leave home sometime.
I mean, we hope so.
We don't want them living here forever.
Not in our basements. We love
them. But our job is to make them fly.
Exactly.
And to have their own lives.
And to figure out, what do they want to take with them in their lives that they grew up with? And what do they want to leave behind in the lives that they had growing up, and create a new family?
Yeah.
Really, none of the characters in this book are given that opportunity because they are just told what to do. So I'm thinking, why are they all so placid? And to me, it all boils down to the pill that they all start taking when they have their first. Oh, well, here's another reason why it might be banned, because it actually acknowledges that young teens start having sexual thoughts. Stirrings is what they call them. That's when they start taking a pill. I think that this pill is also a pill that dulls the people in the community, not just sexual stirrings, but also any independence of thought.
Yeah, the book doesn't really come out and say that. So first of all, I'm thinking, oh, this is like some kind of hormones to squelch this emerging sexuality. But then when it becomes about memories and we're seeing the community through a different lens, it appears that it might be a cocktail of medicine that hits a couple different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a suppression in some way of memory, but also, I don't know.
Emotion.
Yeah, emotion.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like self-determination or self-efficacy or something like that.
They're easily led. They don't question things. I just read an article in this weekend's New York Times Magazine, and it was talking about SSRIs.
Yeah.
Antidepressants, basically. Yeah. SSRI is the generic name for it. Right. But of course, there are lots of brand names that everyone would recognize. But they were talking in this article about how SSRIs do diminish sexual interest.
Yeah.
They're antidepressants, so they kind of numb you emotionally. They're just really interesting side effects. And I thought, oh, I wonder if Lois Lowry was aware of that. And so she used that. But SSRIs came out after this book was published.
Yeah, I'm thinking this book would have been done before the uptake of these.
But she almost imagines something like SSRIs.
Yeah, a lot of people that are on SSRIs and other mood stabilizer medications do say sometimes they're emotionally flat. Yeah, very docile people. Ugh.
And then conformity is really important. So it's not just that they're docile, but they very much all strive to be very similar to one another. So we learned that the children all wear the same clothes and even hairstyles based on their age. The biggest shame in the community is to be released from the community. We don't really understand at first exactly what this means, but we kind of think, well, maybe a person goes to another community and finds a new home there. But we do know that being released brings great shame to that person's family.
It can, but the elderly are released too when they feel like they're done. And there's the great little ceremony.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm done.
Right.
I'm being released. Woohoo!
And then you go through the doorway.
Yeah, and you go through the doorway.
And then you're never seen again.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what that is, even for older people.
Yeah, we know it's a party.
Right.
It's a celebration.
Right. But except for the elderly, anyone else being released, it's shameful.
Yeah.
We eventually learn that being released is being injected with a lethal medicine
in the forehead, which is really gruesome.
Jonas's dad, who is a caregiver of new children, so babies and toddlers, he sometimes needs to release these, and he basically murders them.
Yeah. Without emotion.
Well, he's like singing happily to the babies the whole time.
He doesn't know what pain is. He knows the baby's crying, but without the emotion and without having ever experienced pain himself, he doesn't understand pain. So he doesn't see that what he's doing is wrong.
And he doesn't understand connection. He doesn't understand love. And so he's just doing what he was trained to do without giving any thought to what does it mean to this child. Like he doesn't move beyond his own experience and his own responsibilities to think, well, what am I doing to this baby?
And then you realize things are really bad. And do I really want to be a part of this world? And that's where Jonas has to make a choice.
Yeah.
Because he's living with this father who has done this horrible thing. and he doesn't see it as wrong.
Well, and he's living in a community where his classmate is doing this with the elderly. Also, he realized the whole community structure is diseased.
Yeah, not good. It's scary.
Yeah.
So now what am I going to do with the problem?
Exactly.
He decides to leave. And he leaves with the baby, which I love because he understands love and connectivity. And he's formed a little relationship with this little tyke.
Yep.
Oh, and the baby is going to be terminated the next day.
Right.
So he's decided he's going to save the baby.
Grab the baby and run.
On his bike.
By then, Jonas has stopped taking these pills for a while. So that also has changed things.
Has helped him.
But I thought that the one scene in the book that was heartbreaking is when Jonas asks his mother and father if they love him. And they say, well, be more specific. The word love is really meaningless. Did you catch that?
Oh, yeah. But they didn't understand the feeling of it.
Yeah.
They understood action. They understood behavior, but they didn't understand the feeling word.
Yeah.
So they asked him, well, are you asking, do we like when you're listening to us or when you're doing well at school or something like that? Yes, we do like that.
And they even said, well, we're proud of you.
Yeah, that's a feeling.
But this book is really about Jonas's recognition of what's happening in his community, just very slowly. And then he becomes really separated even from his family when he realizes these are not things that should be happening. But my question is like, where does this morality for him come from? It almost seems like Lois Lowry is saying we all have a moral code inside. And even someone brought up in this community where it seems like that moral code has been lost. You give someone some knowledge, you help them understand what's happening, and they will absolutely reject what's going on and they will do the right thing. So in that way, it's a very hopeful book.
Yeah, it is a very hopeful book. Knowledge doesn't always change people's thoughts,
right,
or their feelings about something. But in this book, it does. The knowledge and information and the exposure of it changes everything for Jonas. So it's a real coming of age book. And there is an awareness at some point when you're growing up. My parents aren't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
The adults don't know what's going on.
Right.
I could do a better job. What's the government doing? There is that coming of age, coming of awareness part that is just a part of becoming a teenager. You're less egocentric. You're more caring about other people. You're developing those romantic interests. I think that it fits well in the teen community in that way. Plus, he becomes empowered with knowledge, and then he is able to create change. And I think those are great messages for teenagers too.
Mm-hmm. So what did you think about the ending?
Yeah. When faced with an ending that doesn't tie things up nicely in a little bow, I feel as the reader, I need to do that. I do that with dreams. If I wake up and my dream isn't done or it's a little troubling, I create the ending that I want to have, and then I can move on with my day.
What ending did you create for this book? Because it is an ambiguous ending.
Yeah. We get food. We find love. We find community. We're very thankful that we're in our new spot. And we have warmth because it's cold. And we have a baby that needs food.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's made it and that he is happy. We're not quite sure how far out he is, but we think he's out far enough, at least the way I end the story, that he's out far enough that he can live a good life. So that's how I end it. How did you feel about the ending?
So I read it that they died.
What?
They were freezing to death and starving to death. And so this was his mind imagining that they had reached their goal.
Wow, that didn't even cross my mind.
But then I'm so happy I got the 25th anniversary edition of The Giver from Lincoln City Libraries. So in it, there are 2 afterwords. The first one is Lois Lowry writing about the reception of the book 25 years later. The second afterword is her acceptance speech from the Newbery Award ceremony.
Oh, nice.
She said that one of the most common questions that she got from her readers was, what happens with Jonas and Gabe? And she also received lots of letters. So she says she doesn't think that there is a right interpretation of the ending. And she says there's a right one for each of us. This is in her Newbery Award acceptance speech. She says that there are a few endings that some of her readers have suggested. So from a 6th grader, I think that when they were traveling in a circle. When they came to elsewhere, it was their old community, but they had accepted the memories and all the feelings that go with it. Now, I had never thought of that this was the same community that they were returning to. Another one, Jonas was kind of like Jesus because he took the pain for everyone else in the community so they wouldn't have to suffer. And at the very end of the book, when Jonas and Gabe reached the place that they knew as elsewhere, you described elsewhere as if it were heaven. And one more, a lot of people I know would hate that ending, but not me. I loved it, mainly because I got to make the book happy. I decided they made it. This is from you, Linda. They made it to the past. I decided the past was our world and the future was their world. It was parallel worlds. And then finally, one from a 7th grade boy. I was really surprised that they just died at the end. That was a bummer. You could have made them stay alive, I thought.
A lot of people thought they had died. That did not even cross my mind.
But then we find out that after 7 years of her saying, well, there's really no right ending, it's, all in the reader, she decides to write a sequel, and that's Gathering Blue. And in it, she reveals that Jonas is thriving in another community. So he did not die. He made it to a community. 4 years after that, she wrote Messenger, and now Jonas has become a leader of his small community. And we also catch sight of Gabe as a boy who's growing up.
So does she say, is it still the sort of dystopian society?
I don't know. But then in the 4th book, Son, Gabe moves to center stage, and somehow he helps not just change his community, but change the world.
Okay.
So I think there's still struggles, issues, whatever.
Okay. Well, kids like those sequels, so.
Yeah, kids do. Adults do as well.
I guess, yeah.
But I was happy to hear that the sequels had thriving Jonas and Gabe in them. And they didn't die alone, cold, and starving on a snowy mountainside.
Yeah. Me too. That's funny that I didn't even pick up on that and that you did. Anyway, yeah, so good book.
I think that most teenagers like these kind of books where the protagonist either finds out that they have powers that no one knows about and they become heroes, or that they recognize everything around them is as rotten as can be and they rebel. Like you were talking about, these are typical emotions and feelings that are a part of the development that children go through anyway. And so I think they can really relate to stories and find themselves in stories like that. But I thought it was also a fun book to read as an adult. Did you?
I have to say, it was enjoyable. It was an easy read. Oh, maybe it's because it was for teenagers. It was easy to read. Yeah, I thought it was enjoyable. And it's just a little seed here and there to kind of go, oh, what's going on in this place? Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, so I think it's well written. Yeah, I liked it.
I'm glad to have read it finally after hearing about it.
And still relevant to today if you dive a little deeper. into knowledge and information.
Yeah, sure is. Well, very good. Thanks for listening, everyone. Our website is frontporchbookclub.com.
Our episodes come out twice a month on the first and third Wednesday of every month.
Everyone who has a teenager in your life, get them The Giver for Christmas. That's my recommendation.
Okay.
See you next time, Lenny.
See you, Nance.